Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command.
The Cardiac Commanders are the Clutch Commanders!
With former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
Welcome into Take Command after a Commanders 28-7 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Alongside Logan Paulsen, I'm Grant Paulsen. Thank you for making the show part of your day. You can watch us on the 106.7 The Fan and Team 980 YouTube channels. Of course, Logan is available for content and puts it out and churns it out for the Commanders day in and day out. I am going to be on 106.7 The Fan from 2 to 6:30 every day this week if you want to listen in. Logan, I guess let's paint with a broad brush to start this thing off. A 3-touchdown loss to the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. The game was tied at the half. Washington was hanging, and then the Chiefs just pulled away.
Yeah, and I think, being on the sideline, you could feel the emotion. I think the team came out and they really kind of put their best foot forward, which was great to see. It gave me a lot of confidence coming off of all these comments by Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn about how we're going to simplify, we're going to play fast. And I really thought they did a lot of good stuff. Offensively, the tempo was excellent. I thought Cliff was in his bag early. And I think that the defense did a lot of really good things in terms of being more assignment sound. They had a bunch of different personnels that they were kind of trotting out there to kind of give themselves the best opportunity to be successful. And I thought you felt that. And I thought you felt good tackling, good movement of the football. And I think the disappointing thing was that they just weren't able to capitalize on all their opportunities in the first half specifically, like versus a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, you go for it on 2 4th downs. You don't get either one of them. Like, those have to be points in a game like this. And I know, there's no such thing as moral wins, and they did some good things. But if you want to win that football game, I think you got to come out with, what is it? Probably 10, maybe 14 points if possible. And then obviously the dynamic of that game is drastically different. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get that done.
Yeah, and notably, they got to the Kansas City 18 on their first drive, on a 9-play drive. And then they had the interception, which was just a dagger. It was a 1st and 10 inside the red zone. You're in chip shot field goal range at the least, but you're moving. And it was a really good, well-designed drive where they were operating at a quick game. Mariota looked comfortable. They were running the ball effectively. They were ahead of the chains. It was just an excellent first drive. And then you had the screen pass go off Deebo Samuel's shoulder when he kind of looked upfield a little too soon before he had the ball. Pops up in the air for a pick. Their next drive was 8 plays and 58 yards. Again, super effective, no penalties on the road, super loud place, multiple first downs. You get a chunk play, and you got up to the Kansas City 40, which is like fringe field goal territory for a lot of NFL teams. You're going for a 4th down there, and I thought it was the easiest decision of the night, not only because you're in no man's land, Logan, but remember, Matt Gay was out, so they had Matthew Wright, who was on the team for 3 hours, kicking in the game. So instead of trying a long 55-pluser, they decide we're going to go for 4th and a handful. And it just so happens that based on a spot, Zach Ertz is literally inches shy of the sticks. But both of those drives were super effective. They came out. And then defensively, similarly on the other side of the ball, you can't have a better first couple of drives. And what I mean by that is, yes, the Chiefs moved the ball. No, they didn't really have necessary answers. They got into Washington territory and at one point even threw the ball into the red zone. But you had a Marshawn Lattimore pick. You had a ball go off Travis Kelce's hands for a Bobby Wagner interception. So they had picked off 2 passes all season coming into this game. Mikey Sanders still with both of them, Logan. And then in 2 drives in this game, they had 2 interceptions. And because of that, the Chiefs weren't on the board. So it's kind of exactly what you drew up as the quarter had ended in a scoreless game and they had a couple takeaways.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect recap of what was going on there. And again, I think you could kind of feel some of the underlying issues that would be present in the second half if they weren't able to score points. I think while they were being effective offensively, there's this, I don't know how to describe it, and I don't have a good football term for it, but offensively, when you're getting to 3rd down a lot, to me, like, it's hard. Like, you got to find ways. I think when you look at the Chiefs as a good point of comparison, like, they were moving the football, but they were doing it on first down. They're doing it on second down. They're finding these chunk plays. Their frequency of getting the third down is a little bit less, and they're able to execute in those moments. And when you're just demanding that the offense is executing at like a super high clip for long stretches like that, it just, to me, it's not sustainable. And I think, like, I felt that a little bit in the first half. And again, they did a great job of executing when they had to. Again, the quick game, I love the diversity of the calls by Cliff. We got a little bit of zone read. There's lots of good stuff going on there, but there was no easy button. There was no explosive chunk. You got to give a lot of credit to Kansas City and how they stopped the runs. I mean, they fit the runs excellent all game. Then they played really good coverage in the back end. There's not a lot of separation down the field. And again, there's no chunks. And so then when you look at the reverse, right, you could feel kind of the inertia of the Kansas City offense, and the Commanders defense did a great job of saying, oh, hey, we're going to get a turnover in the red. We're going to get a turnover tip ball off of Travis Kelce for a Bobby Wagner interception. And those were game-changing, inertia-changing games, but you could always feel kind of the inevitability of the Kansas City team. And so I said this on the broadcast. I kind of hope that the Commanders don't punch themselves out. They've got 4 quarters of football to play. And it really felt like, kind of heading into the second half, especially after the muff kickoff, that they had kind of given everything they had, and there wasn't a lot left for them to kind of throw in terms of punching efficiency, if you want to make the boxing analogy.
Yeah, and I don't mean to slight them, but also I think what happened as the game went on, and a lot of us kind of felt this way going in, they were punching above their weight class, if you want to use a boxing analogy. And the Chiefs are just a better team right now. I mean, so you gave them your best shot. Like, you played for a quarter, you're 0-0. At the half, it's 7-7. Like, you're hanging. But it did feel kind of inevitable. Like, okay, if the Chiefs stop turning the ball over, they haven't really forced them to punt or gotten, a 3-and-out or stops. Like, this isn't going to work if Washington doesn't hit something explosive. One thing I wanted to point out, you talked about third down. This was the big difference offensively as the game went on to me. Early on, when they were able to move the ball and when they got into Kansas City territory on those drives, they were ahead of the chains constantly. They would get, as you said, it was nothing easy. It was nothing explosive, but it was like 3, 5, 6 yards at a time. And so it's 2nd and 5, and then it's 3rd and 2. And like, that is where Washington kind of needs to live. It's not an easy way to live, but it's what they kind of need to be doing. As the game went on, everything was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. And it felt like when you got them there, they were done. Just they didn't have many answers. So just to go specifically through it, I'm going to read off their third downs chronologically in the game. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 6, and then at the end of the game, a 3rd and 1 after garbage time. But you could hear the difference there, right? It was like 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 8, 11, 9. When you get into those 3rd and longs, the way that they're operating, you're just in trouble. And you can say that about a lot of teams, but Kansas City wouldn't have been in as much trouble. For Washington, it gets too complicated when they're behind the sticks without the ability to get anything easy.
No, I think you're 100% right, and I think, like, when you look at kind of those, it's been a bugaboo of the offense from the beginning of the season, is right, these kind of 3rd and 5 plus situations, like, they're kind of out of everything that they want to do, right? And again, lots of offenses are like this, right, where it's like, this is our main thing. We want to be on 1st and 2nd down. We want to run quick game. We want to run the football, have our play action shots. And when we can hit those things, we can stay relatively efficient. But when we're in 3rd and 7, we're getting exotic pressure packages. There's a communication later in the game on a sack given up with an unblocked rusher, which is really interesting to kind of observe from the sideline. But they have these moments where they're high stress. They don't execute. And again, like, as much as I love Marcus Mariota, as much as I think he's a great football player, like, I don't know if I want him in a lot of 3rd and 7s back there, like, dealing, and that's not a slight. There's only a couple guys that I can say that I really like in those situations. And again, Marcus, I thought, did a lot of really good things, but that's not his bag. And I think you really felt some of the offensive limitations with him there. But to be fair to him, I went back and buzzed the film this morning before we started. And there's not like a ton of separation, by guys that should be separating in this offense. And even look at the Terry touchdown, like the margin for error on that thing is basically zero. The completion down the sideline where he like gets his elbow in is basically zero. Like there just was not a lot of error. And that's the thing about this Kansas City defense, to give them credit also, is they are excellent, man. It's like a work of art watching them fit these runs. Like those three linebackers they have, the nickel player they've got, excellent job. Hats off to them. And then in the back end, the coverage was much more comprehensive than I was expecting. So I think it's a testament to Kansas City. I think it's, again, kind of showing some of the limitations of the offense as it currently exists. And unfortunately, this is something they're going to have to contend with for the next couple of weeks.
So let me double click on that for a second, because that's what I see, what you just said, which is they need something easier. They need something explosive. They need some more vertical threat in this offense. And it just felt very congested, right? Everything's at the line of scrimmage. They're not really threatening you. You mentioned the 2 catches by McLaurin. So the 25-yarder was their longest play of the night on the sideline that got overturned. He made an unbelievable catch. And by the way, the touchdown was a better catch. So kudos to him. That's Terry at his best.
Yeah, how special was that catch, though? I mean, like, I know we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here, but both those catches were outstanding.
Elite. Those are like top of the sport, all-time catches, no doubt. But why, so I guess here's my question on the offense. Why don't they have more guys running free? Why can't they separate more? Because we talk about the injuries all the time, and they're decimated by injuries almost everywhere. I get it. But yesterday, you've got McLaurin back. You've got Debo back. The only guy you're missing at wide receiver is Noah Brown. You've got your full allotment of tight ends. Other than Austin Eckler as a third down back, you've got your full allotment of backfield, right? And Eckler is not like a separator anyway, and I think McNichols has done a really good job in that role. Your offensive line is now completely healthy. And I know Jaden wasn't there, but that doesn't change anything in terms of receiver separation. Like, what's happening? Because I get it when you're trotting out, Luke and Robbie Anderson a week ago, but this is a kind of a reoccurring theme no matter who's on the field for me, it feels like.
Yeah, and again, I think you got to in this game, I think you got to give credit to Kansas City. But like you said, this has been a little bit of an underlying issue throughout the year, and so like, what is the cause of it? And again, I think they're in a lot of third downs. I think they're a lot, like you alluded to there at the beginning of the conversation. They're in a lot of third longs, which are just the deck's tipped in the defense's favor usually, especially a defense like Kansas City. But I do think that when you watch the film, and again, I got to go back and watch in more detail, but from what I watched this morning, is just everything is stressed. Everything in the offense is stressed. And so what I mean by that is the pass protection is stressed, especially with Laramie Tunsil going out. Like, there's not quick pressures, but it's not like, like you can't sit back there for 5 seconds and throw the football, right? You look to the concept, and like usually Kansas City in this game did a good job of taking away number one. So how comfortable is Marcus about like working through a full progression or working a full field? Like, I think he does a pretty good job going 1 to 2 same side, but is he really comfortable going full field read here? And again, like, they were able to create some kind of uncomfortable pockets. And I think you just don't have to look any farther than what's going on with Kansas City and the playmaking ability of a guy like Patrick Mahomes. And again, I don't want to compare Marcus to Mahomes, like maybe the best quarterback of all time, but I think there's a good kind of teaching point here, in that like when you look at how Mahomes plays the position, he is elevating the offense in these critical moments on third down. I'm buying time. I mean, I think there was a graphic that one of my producers texted me from the broadcast where it's like, of their explosive plays, I think 4 of the 5 were over 4 seconds time to throw. It's like he's buying time. He's escaping the pocket. He's breaking down coverage structures. Because if you look at, like, I know we're going to talk about the defense more in a second, but if you look at the defense early in the down, like in that 2.5 second, you're like, this is good coverage. It's when the down starts to extend that guys are just wide open. We've stressed coverages, we've stressed eye discipline. When you watch the film, that's what Mahomes does week in and week out. And so there just isn't that creative element that elevates the play call. Because I will say, like, I had a conversation with a defensive secondary coach, defensive pass game coordinator once, and he's like, there's only so many patterns you can run out of so many different formations. So if we get it called, and if we get the call and the check correct, like really the advantage is for us in the defense. Now, as an offensive player, I don't agree with that, but that was his perspective. And I do feel like there's times where it's like you have to be able to elevate the call a little bit, right? Because again, we talked about how efficient and effective Cliff was on first, second down. It's in those big moments where it's like, hey, we're going to have some pressure here. Can the quarterback kind of make a subtle pocket movement, just lengthen the down a little bit so that one of our guys can get open late and we can find these completions? I think a great example of that is Marcus breaking the pocket and finding that completion to Luke McCaffrey on the sideline early in the game, right? It just, there isn't that elevation on third down from the route runners, from the quarterback, from the offensive line that you need to be successful in those situations all the time.
Maybe that is an area too where when Jaden's back, he with the ability to create, extend, move around, closes that gap a little bit, right, between Mariota and a Mahomes. But yeah, there's no doubt, and that was kind of so. I'm still in Kansas City as we record this now at the Airbnb. I was at Arrowhead Stadium last night in the crowd, and it was one of the
what
things.
A great environment, by the way.
Holy cow. It was so good. It was so good. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that I kept coming back to, and like we were in real time, we're talking about was like that play. We would be pointing at the field, like that's why Mahomes is one of the best ever. Yeah. Like you did everything right up front. You kind of had him on the move. He's kind of scrambling. He's about to get hit for either a loss of one or at the line of scrimmage, and he just with his peripheral sees Juju Smith-Schuster or whoever kind of flashing, and he just kind of pushes the ball out to him, and now it's a 19-yard catch and run. And, like, I do think a lot of what they got was out of structure. There were certainly some breakdowns. Again, we'll get into the defense in a moment. But maybe, Daniels just opened some things up. I thought early in the year they had more guys running free schematically than they do right now. And maybe I could be wrong about that. But, like, you think about the week one play where Terry's open on a post and Jaden sails them, they missed. It's been a while since I've seen, like, vertically someone just get loose. I mean, it seems like everything they do is horizontal right now.
Yeah, and I think like again, the Chiefs are a really good comp because I think they're not the same offense, but there's a lot of similarities, and they do a lot of horizontal stuff as well. And that offense, to me, like this is going to sound crazy, but before Rashee Rice came back, like they're actually pretty easy to cover on the perimeter. And what I'm not saying that they're not good football players, but I think that shows up. You see the Marshawn Lattimore interception. I think is a perfect illustration of that, right? Like he's able to kind of box out this smaller Hollywood Brown, right? Trey Amos is able to make that PBU on Xavier Worthy over the middle of the field. Like they're just not these crazy physical guys at the catch point. And all of a sudden you're like, man, there's like not a lot of air here for the Chiefs. It's when Rashee Rice comes in, he's got this player that can win versus man-to-man coverage, and it kind of elevates the offense. And Patrick Mahomes does the elevation too, right? So and again, when you go back and watch in preparation for this, it's like actually this Chiefs offense is kind of boring. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of teeth to it. And then all of a sudden you get to this play where Patrick Mahomes is kind of scrambling around. He moves to the line of scrimmage and he hits Travis Kelce for a big completion. You're like, well, that sucks because like they had this pretty covered up at the beginning of the down, but as the down progresses, he makes this play. So again, I think in terms of guys wide open down the field versus this Kansas City defense, you got to give them a ton of credit. And again, I think you're looking just for a touch of elevation, right? Yeah. From anybody. It could be from the offensive line. You could be from a pass catcher. It could be from, Mariota or Jaden Daniels when he gets healthy. But like in those moments when you look at good teams on third down, right? Like Joe Burrow is a great example. Like he just finds a way to buy a tenth of a second and then the ball's out, right? And again, like that's just not where this team is currently at, unfortunately. And again, like could Cliff do more on third down? Probably. But again, I look at his first and second down stuff and I'm like, man, it doesn't get any better than this. Can we get some elevation from the players?
What about the run game? Let's hit on that real quick. I thought Bill ran really, really hard, but he was kind of slamming into a brick wall. You talked about the run fits. They didn't give you anything up front, really. I mean, they were assignment sound. It was really, really good, legitimate run-stuffing football by Kansas City. What's interesting to me, though, is I want to say it's 3 weeks now in a row where – certainly 2 weeks where Washington has struggled to run the ball against teams where that is kind of the deficiency of their defense. Now, the Chiefs have not been bad at that, but they're much better statistically in other areas than stopping the run. You go back to the Bears game, I thought Washington did okay, but I thought they were going to run it like crazy. And the Bears, coming out of the bye, did a much better job than anticipated. So it's kind of a 3-week trend here where it doesn't look like the rest of the year, where Washington was the number one run team in the league until the last couple of weeks. What do you see in there after a 2.8 yard per carry game from Bill and 9 for 25 for him on the ground? If you add up the running backs and Debo, it's 12 carries for right around 32 yards yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I knew running the football was going to be tough versus Kansas City team, and a big part of it, it's just because it's like of how their mentality, man. Like when you cut the tape on a Kansas City, and it bore itself out last night. Like they do not mess around with run fits. There's not anybody playing hero ball. It's like we are getting downhill, we're fitting gaps, we're spilling to the right people, and there's just you got to be excellent. You got to win a physical one-on-one up front to create the run lane, and we've just got enough good players up front that know where to fit. They're going to make this hard. And again, Spagnuolo, I think there was a second and short or a third and short where he's bringing corner pressures. He's bringing some stuff to kind of change the number count a little bit. But overall, man, I think it's just like you got to give credit to those three linebackers. Those dudes are special football players. Like Nick Bolton's excellent. Tranquil's excellent. The other guy from Wisconsin, I forget his name at the moment. Leo Chenal maybe is his name.
No.
Kind of like the edge Sam off-ball player. Like when you get guys that are just about their work in that type of way, it's going to be challenging. And so, yeah, I thought you said Bill. I think you hit the nail on the head. Bill ran hard. I thought they did some good stuff in the run front. But again, like when you watch the film, it's not like, oh, like this is mistargeted or this is this. It's like that guy beat that block or that guy undercut this and we spilled it, or that guy sat the double team. And it's just going to be tough when you get guys winning one-on-ones like that in the front and fitting it the way that like God intended them to fit runs. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's cool to watch. I get juiced up talking about it because like that's good ball. But yeah, you got to give your tip your hat to them, I think, a little bit.
Well, and also there's a few times here where we're kind of saying, I feel like, yeah, look, Kansas City's just really good. And while normally, you as a fan, you hear that and you're like, oh, well, what about us? I mean, it's okay to do that in this game in the sense that I was shaking hands with people leaving there. Everyone was so nice. They're like, oh, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. And I was
used to winning ball games, right? Like,
and I was like,
nice.
Enjoy your AFC Championship game. Enjoy the AFC Championship game. Like, this team is the team in the sport. So, yeah, you're going to get got on some stuff. I mean, they're varsity, man. They're really, really good. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball and how some changes that got made for the Commanders in this game and how they looked in those capacities. We'll do that next on Take Command. Take Command with you after a 28-7 Chiefs win over the Commanders in Kansas City. Washington falls to 3-5. They've got two more really tough games upcoming in this 3-game gauntlet. Short week now to prepare for a team coming off of Monday Night Football. Coming off of a bye while Washington's coming off of Monday Night Football with Seattle coming to town. And then you've got the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium as well. All right, so Logan, let's just start with on the defensive side of the ball. We wondered, will there be personnel changes? There absolutely were, whether they were out of necessity because of myriad injuries or because this is what they think gives them the best chance now. Talent-wise, I got what I wanted, by the way. Frankie Luvu on the edge and Jordan McGee basically playing full-time at linebacker. Also, you got what you wanted, which was a lot more Tyler Owens in the secondary. He played a ton of snaps. So how did we think those adjustments worked out, and what did we see?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the first half, I was really impressed. I thought Tyler Owens in man-to-man coverage situations did a nice job on Travis Kelce, and I thought that like that matchup was good. I think you feel McGee's speed and aggressiveness to the football. I think that's something that is going to be better. Now, is he perfect all the time? No, but I think like there's something to having guys that can cover grass like that on the field. I thought Reeves did some nice stuff in the secondary. And I think there's a lot of good things to point to, like coming out of this game. And I haven't watched it as closely as I want to, but I think when you go back and you look at like, for example, PFF, when you cut the film, they have like a first down feature. And so you can like watch all the first downs they got over the course of the game. And, in the first half, you feel it's like, oh man, it's like, this is a lot of work. They're really striving, grinding to kind of get these first downs. And then as you get into the second half, like some of the breakdowns that we were talking about earlier kind of start coming to light. And so while some of those personnel changes were good and I think effective, and I think maybe you're not getting like a bunch of green grades in this game. I think you will get grades moving forward from young players who are going to get more experience and just add athleticism to the defense. I just thought, like, again, like there are a couple things to point out here. And I don't know if I might be jumping the gun, but when you watch those explosive plays by Patrick Mahomes, I think one of the things that really jumps out is the lack of consistent pass rush. And it's not just guys winning one-on-ones, it's guys containing the pocket. Like we are just, we're taking inside moves. Patrick Mahomes is getting to the perimeter. We're taking a really high rush on that touchdown. I think it was to the running back Hunt, like where he kind of steps up and runs out. Like with him, you just have to keep him in the pocket. Like there's the other one where they bring a sim pressure. Bobby Wagner's an A-gap pressure. I think Kinlaw is supposed to loop out and contain. We don't quite get there. He breaks out of the pocket. And I think that's the one he finds, either Juju Smith-Schuster or Rashee Rice. Like that was the thing that really jumped out to me because I thought the coverage structure in the back end was pretty good. But I think the thing that you just got to contain him in the pocket as much as you can. And I'm not saying that's easy because, again, like I talked about watching the film leading into this game, like he does it to everybody, but like just having a more disciplined plan for that element of his game, I thought would have been important. And I think like all the personnel moves, all the things we just talked about, while probably a net positive, you don't see the impact of them because of lack of detail with your rush, lack of detail with coverage, like on the Travis Kelce long gain that he's got. It's man coverage and someone gets their eyes lost in the backfield. Like we can't do that, right? Patrick Mahomes breaks the pocket. We rally to make the tackle instead of passing a player off, ends up being a touchdown. Like that level of detail versus a team like the Chiefs is the difference between winning and losing the ball game. And I'm not saying if you do that stuff, you're going to win the game, but it just puts you in a better spot for successful down defensively if you just do your job. So I think there's a little bit of that coming through in the second half, which was really frustrating to watch. So couple that with lack of offensive consistency, lack of offensive easy buttons. I think that's the story of the game for me leading into the second half.
You mentioned that Kelce play for 38 yards, which is like so vintage Chiefs, by the way.
Yeah.
That play was designed to go elsewhere, and Kelce's in as a blocker, essentially. And it didn't look like naturally he was going to release. It looked like he was, because he kind of looked backwards like, all right, did we get rid of the ball? Like, what's going on? And I'm not exaggerating. I think it was like 4.5 seconds after the snap. He kind of goes, well, shoot, I'll just get out into this space.
Right.
And Mahomes and him are on the same page. So you said, man, is that – I kind of thought like that you just got by an off-schedule thing. Is that somebody's job to just – if he's blocking you, basically, you're with him until the play's dead? Is that kind of the idea?
In my opinion, based on what I watched this morning, yeah. Like I would say, like based on how the coverage distributed, like
because there was nobody else within 20 yards, right?
Yeah, like stay on your work, right? And they talk about that. Like I remember Jim Haslett talking about that. Like that was like year one NFL stuff. It's like I'd be in pass pro. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing the scout team cards. I'm in pass pro, and I wouldn't think anything of it, but we'd have to rerun the card because the person that had me in man coverage like wandered off somewhere, right? It's like, no, like this is you, stay here. And so it just reminded me of that and just how in those, if it is man-to-man coverage or if it's some type of match coverage, like you have to stay on your work, like no matter how boring, no matter how, and again, like that's the thing that's so tough is I don't know what their scramble rules are for Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes, like you said, he's back there for like 3.5 seconds, right? So you're like, oh, do I attack the quarterback? Do I stay here? But it was crazy watching the down and watching the player's eyes on his work. And then all of a sudden his eyes transition to the quarterback. And then Travis Kelce kind of just drifts off to the offensive right, and you get a completion for 40 yards or whatever it was. So that's the type of stuff that I think today, when Joe Witt Jr. watches the film, is just going to drive. Like there's some stuff where guys aren't fitting runs correctly. Again, you feel the energy, you feel the juice, but the detail versus good football teams needs to be at an all-time high. Because I think Fletch said this on the broadcast, and I think it's perfect for what we're talking about, is versus teams like this, you can't beat yourself. You can't beat yourself. And I felt like there was a couple times where the communication wasn't all the way up to 10. or our detail wasn't all the way up to 10, and they get an explosive run, they get an explosive pass, and they're doing stuff to do that to you. Patrick Mahomes is a beast, so don't get that twisted. I'm not saying this is easy, but I think that's something that I take out of this game, especially in the second half.
So that play I asked you about was a 38-yarder. Their second biggest play of the game was a 31-yarder. And if you remember, that was, I don't want to say like a deep over, but he was kind of like going across the field. And so it was almost like there were three guys across.
It looked like a zone coverage. Yep, zone coverage, and they're running a high cross. He takes a really good angle, and you put that hook player, who I think was Tyler Owens, in conflict. There's a back to the flat. I actually thought he got pretty good depth on it. I was
going to say, it looked like he got okay depth, but then no one's back there, so I wonder. I don't know what happened there.
I think that's a great example for people watching at home of like how pass protection stresses zone coverage or elongating the play. Like, because if he has to throw that ball like on time, he's going to have to throw to grass, right? He's just going to have to throw to that spot. But because the protection was what it was, he's can kind of hold the football, see the throw. Just think of it. It's like you're stretching, like Play-Doh or like those. Remember that old GAC kind of like toy that used to get a mess everywhere. Like as you start off, it's pretty dense in the middle, but you stretch, and it gets crazy thin. And that's on a lot of these explosive plays that they had. They just continued to stretch because they had time. They had time to do that. And I think, again, like I didn't think the coverage dispersion was terrible. And maybe they have a rule on this where you get a little bit deeper versus this coverage concept, whatever. But at least to my eye, the glaring issue was the lack of consistent pass rush in these moments. And again, like, I've got fan friends texting me like, oh, we got to blitz more. We got to rush more than 4, all these different things. That may be true. And I'm not going to criticize the coach's decision, but also like you have to be disciplined with how you rush the quarterback, right? You have to be disciplined with your pass lanes and responsibilities. So I think it's a myriad of things, but on that play specifically, that 31-yarder, I remember thinking, man, like, I don't know if you could play this much better, because if you get any deeper, he's going to throw it to the back, and that's going to be a 25-yard gain. And so, like, again, like just the ability for them to protect, stretch coverages, and put that kind of stress on the coverage contour was tough to watch at times.
And I hope when I say what I'm about to say, it doesn't sound like an excuse or like taking it easy or whatever. But also, like, this is why Mahomes to me is like the greatest quarterback.
He's a baller.
He's a
baller.
He's been doing this to people. He's been in the AFC Championship game every single year he's played for this reason. Like, this is what he does. This is the kind of conflict he puts you in. By the way, just to give some numbers real quick to what we were talking about, Jordan McGee played 58 snaps, so 84% of their defensive plays. They had 69 defensive plays. He was on the field for, which is far and away a career high, obviously. And then your guy Tyler Owens played 25 snaps, 36% of the snaps in this game. So the adjustments were clearly made schematically there defensively. We've talked about the pass rush, so real quick, I want to give some attention to this guy. I love Jacob Martin. We talked about him in the last few weeks. This is my guy. He had 7 pressures against Dallas. He came out on the first drive and had a sack and a big hit of Patrick Mahomes on a near sack. He ended up getting a second sack in the game. Like, if I'm not saying every single down he got heat, but he did a lot. And he was far and away their best, most impactful pass rusher, in my opinion, in this game. He ended up statistically having the 2 sacks and having 3 hits on the quarterback with 2 tackles for loss. I don't know how much better you could have asked him to play filling in for Dorrance Armstrong. They need more. Like, to your point, I don't remember. Johnny Newton had the sack where he throws Patrick Mahomes after the whistle for a penalty.
Great. I mean, that's a terrible penalty, but great rush by him. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was an awesome rush, bad penalty. But otherwise, I guess I'm trying to say I'm too many words here. But bottom line is there were not enough noticeable pass rushes to me. Like, Jacob Martin over and over again, I was like, oh, nice rush. Otherwise, I don't really – if I'm trying to add to that list, I don't have a lot to add.
Yeah, and I think like when you leave the game with 11 hurries, I forget the total number of dropbacks, but like it's just not a lot. And then compare that to
like
the Chiefs.
I think.
Yeah, the Chiefs who have 21 hurries. Like you could just think about the game. Like when you're watching it, you could feel the difference, right? Like when you're watching, you're like, oh my gosh, like Mariota doesn't have a lot of time here. He's got to the ball's got to be out. Like he doesn't have time to kind of sit there and marinate. It's a total different thing when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And a little bit of that is like they're banged up at defensive linemen right now. Like I don't want to give them an excuse, obviously, because you got to find ways to win the football game. But when you have one of the most efficient statistically pass rushers in the NFL out with a knee injury, your kind of big pocket pushing guy and Dietrich Wise is out. Those were the guys that were going to start the season. They're not playing football anymore, right? Then you get Jacob Martin, who great job by Adam Peters finding somebody, but like it's pretty thin in terms of people that can consistently rush the passer. And I know people want to talk about Frankie Louvu. Where's his production? I think Frankie Louvu personally is better as a blitzer. Like he's much better as a blitzer, but because of the injury situation, we've kind of had to allocate him in this kind of pass rushing defensive end role, which to me is ultimately like probably not the best utilization of him, but it maximizes the team. And so I don't know. I just look at it and I'm saying like they're in a tough spot. They got to go. I don't know what they're going to do. Go back to the drawing board, whatever it looks like. But this to me feels like we're getting out of what they were doing early in the season so well. And they're going to have to think about ways to create pressure in different ways. Like I was talking to Fletch about it. And he's like, well, can we get some, overloads? Can we get some exotic pressures? And that is something that you probably can do. But again, like when you're trying to simplify the game plan, that becomes challenging. So I think there's a lot of solutions. It's like what Joe Witt Jr. and the defensive staff decide what's best, but we got to find a way to create more consistent pressure just based off of last night's performance.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think that goes without saying. They just not only get home, but just force the quarterback into some worse decisions, faster decisions, some different situations. I did like the one play Johnny Newton had. He was playing through an injury most of the game, by the way. I was
ankle, yeah.
Get treatment on the sideline. He was gutting through it. They also lost Javon Kinlaw for the end part of the game. He made a hustle play where he tried to sweep the legs of Mahomes with his arm, kind of diving, landed on his shoulder, bicep area. So that's worth monitoring going into the week as well. So, a thin defensive line, I don't want to say is getting thinner, but here's the tough thing about this Monday night game, Logan. Like Terry has a quad that's announced at some point during that game, made it sound after the game like he's fine. But between that and what happened with Kinlaw and Laramie Tunsil came out of the game a couple times with a hamstring.
Tunsil's a crazy one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now you got 6 days until your next game. Like, I don't know how much more. I mean, I don't know what they can do. Last year they lived a pretty charmed life with injuries. This is the opposite of that. They're getting just ravaged.
So I want to say two things, and it's going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Like, this is the NFL. You have to negotiate injuries. I will say this is comparatively very tough to deal with. Like, I've been a part of teams that get banged up, and at some point you're just like, we can't put the product that we want to put on the field because everyone's dinged up so bad, right? And I think like you saw flashes of what this offense could be last night. You've seen it with Terry and Debo on the field together. Like all those elements are true, but again, not having Laramie Tunsil, does that affect Marcus Mariota's ability? And I don't think Brandon Coleman played poorly, but just there's a difference between Laramie Tunsil and Brandon Coleman, you know what I'm saying, in terms of production. So
by the way, good for him to get back on the field.
Yeah, great job by him.
Laramie Tunsil hurt, but he'd been deactivated for weeks. I mean, we're going, what the heck is going on with Brandon Coleman? He was a starter at left tackle last year, moved him to right tackle, then left guard. Now he's inactive, and his number was called. He was right back at left tackle.
And I actually thought he pass protected, at least in the clips that I saw, relatively well. Like I didn't feel him in a negative way. And I think the offensive line played well enough. It's just when you are losing the continuity, you're losing the talent. It's challenging. It's a challenging situation to be in for sure. So again, like this is why coaches get paid a lot of money to kind of solve these issues. It's just at some point it becomes hard. Like I was thinking back to some of the defensive criticisms that we had, and they've got so many young people working together. Like there was a play, I think it was the completion of Worthy, where it's like Mike Sanderstill, Trey Amos, and Quan Martin are all in the shot together. And it's just, you've got a lot of young people to their NFL journey on the field together in the same shot versus something where there seems to be some type of coverage bust. Like it's just, those things take time. They take reps, they take experience to kind of build out. And right now, a lot of people that are young are playing a lot of snaps, and I think it's a good thing long-term for the organization, but it's tough in the interim because like, good offenses, good defenses are going to be able to take advantage of that. Like I think about Josh Connolly is a great example. Like I have no doubt that Josh Connolly is going to be a staple at right tackle for this team. Like just like the way he competes, the way he finishes, his athleticism. But like you have to go through some growing pains with a guy like that. And again, like that's happening more and more with each injury, pushing someone to the forefront of the depth chart.
Yeah. Defensively, they did get 2 takeaways. They were both in the first half. They were both on the first 2 drives for the Chiefs. And so, not coincidentally, we say, hey, if you get some takeaways, it changes how things look on defense. They shut the Chiefs out during that period of the ball game because on 2 long drives, you get the ball before they get points. One of them was an excellent defensive play by the maligned corner. Marshawn Lattimore makes a huge play last night.
Great play.
Almost had a fumble recovery as well on a nice punch fumble by Trey Amos. By the way, the Chiefs have fumbled 8 times this year and haven't lost any of them. So,
dude, isn't that just like the serendipity of football? You know what I mean? Like just how lucky
nice.
is that?
Yeah. I mean, when things are going your way, they're going your way.
They're going your way. It was so funny on the broadcast. Fletch was like, Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw picks. I'm like, well, if you look at like his and I say what you want about PFF, I think this is a great metric, like this turnover worthy play metric.
Yeah, I love
like
it.
He's got a very high percentage of those. And so tonight, a couple of those get actualized. And, Fletcher's like, well, and I was like, well, he's got a lot of turnover with plays. Like, this is the statistical variance you want to see. And he's like, well, shut up, nerd. Like, who cares about that? And I was like, okay, cool. But I do think like there is a lot of luck with that. You know what I mean? A lot of turnover luck for the defense against the defense. And for them to get some of that actualized last night was great. But to your point, like, it would have been nice if they grabbed that fumble.
Oh, for sure. But we talked about it on my show yesterday, actually, the fact that, he has 2 picks all year, but he puts the ball in harm's way. I mean, if you watch him, it's like pretty irrefutable, and the numbers bear that out, as you said. I like TWPs as well. But anyway, so the 2 picks, I mean, you get the Lattimore, and then the correction, I think it's like a regression to the mean of finally one of these balls in the middle of the field up in the air that you just got a guy standing there. That was inevitable and kind of a gift off Kelsey's hands. You had the bad one from Debo for Washington that can't be an interception. And then it was kind of like, okay, we'll balance that out with the Kelsey play. But 2 picks on a couple of drives after having 2 all year. So it was just really good to see them get some of those that they've been preaching and begging for and talking about because, again, 3 all year is not going to work through 7 games. So hopefully that's a sign of something to come.
Yeah, and really just a tremendous play by Marshawn. Like I was standing right there, like really like right where the play happened. And it was just like the way he played the football, the way he used his physicality, the way he looked back for the ball. And then, I don't know, the emotional support from the team was just amazing. Like Dan Quinn, who's not a young man, is sprinting over. Like I almost got caught up in the melee. Like everyone's running over and I had to like work on my old like rip through on kickoff coverage to get out of the way. But like to see guys like that juiced for a player, there's a lot of stuff going on with the team, but to see that level of support, it indicates something special is happening still. So hopefully they, like you said, they can keep getting that level of production from Marshawn. And again, like one of the things that Joe Wood Jr.'s talked about is like, don't press, right? Don't press for your turnovers. It's going to come from tips and overthrows, right? And so I think the second play in that sequence is a perfect example of tips and overthrows and turnover luck kind of falling your way.
All right, we'll put a bow on Take Command. Look ahead for a moment to the rest of the gauntlet here. You got 2 home games coming up with the Seahawks and the Lions around the bend. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen with you on Take Command. Welcome back to Take Command. Watch us on the 106.7 The Fan and Team 980 YouTube channels. Of course, Logan, you will see on his content with the Commanders all week long. You can listen to me 2 to 6:30 on 106.7 The Fan. Logan, putting a bow on this thing, I did want to talk about Arrowhead Stadium for a moment. That was as good an atmosphere as I've ever seen a game in, really start to finish. So I was in the crowd, and I never really go to games in the crowd. I've never been in the crowd at Northwest Stadium. I've always kind of been in the press box. But I take a couple of road trips a year now, and man, was it incredible. I had 5 NFL stadiums that I haven't been to. Lambeau Field is the only place I'd say that maybe had a better game day experience, and that might be close. I'm not sure, but everybody stood the entire time. It was insanely loud. Everyone's in on all the bits is what I would say. Like when everyone's supposed to yell Chiefs, they do. When they do the completely hypocritical thing where they do the tomahawk chop, even though my team's named the Commanders 100,000 times, everyone's doing it and in on it. Like it's such a cool place to watch a game.
It's always been that way, or at least in my since my career. Like I remember, I told you going to preseason games there, and it being crazy. When I was in Houston, we played them twice a year, and it was like crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was like just a fun spot to play a game. Like and like you said, like it's a smart fan base. They know when to cheer. They know when to be quiet. And like the light show that they did, the fireworks, like everything was just the tailgate. I don't know. You walked in, but like from the press box, you could see out and like they've been tailgating since 2:30. So it was it's a great spot, man. It's a great spot. So yeah, I really thought they did themselves justice, in terms of showing why that's such a cool spot to play.
I didn't think they started their tailgate at 2:30, did they?
We pulled up at like 3:00, and they had been there. They like there were people like with full barbecues, like cooking pigs and stuff. So like it was they had been there for a while. Yeah.
So it must have been like 2:00 then, probably. Because didn't they have a dentist appointment at 2:30?
A dentist appointment. I don't know about all that. What's the bit? I don't know. I'm scared now.
Tooth hurty.
2:30. Boom. Bow, 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 bow. Love it.
Have I never 2:30'd you before?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, if you ever say, like how kids do the 6-7 thing every time
Yeah,
someone.
I have an 11-year-old son. I'm very aware of that.
Yeah. Well, 2:30 is mine. Like that's
Okay.
my 6-7. So that's my
Okay.
bet.
All right.
If you
I'll
ever
keep an eye
say
out for it.
2:30, yeah, there's going to be a deadpan, like long, quizzical follow up to that. If you guys didn't see the piece written about Logan in The Athletic, you should check it out. It was really, really cool. They did a feature story. I think it was tied to National Tight End Day in some capacity, which came on Sunday. But the story is about kind of how tight ends are getting some shine now. You got Travis Kelce married to Taylor Swift, and you got National Tight End Day. But really, that was written through the lens of what Logan's doing, where you're training some various players and all that you're doing in the media now. But it was really, really a cool story, man. I read it on the flight.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, Jordan Rodriguez, a beast. She well researched, well connected, and for whatever reason, she said, "Let's write a story about Logan Paulsen." So it was very nice of her, and very happy with how it all came out.
Yeah, pretty sweet. All right, looking ahead now. So I've been calling this the gauntlet. Chiefs out of the way here. 2 more to go. No pressure, but the Seahawks, who are 5-2, and the Lions, who are 5-2, coming to town. Season kind of on the brink at this point, just by way of record now at 3-5. And Seattle had the bye while you were playing on Monday with a short week and you're banged up. So that is about as unideal as it gets in this league. What's your thought here going forward with these 2 conference games? The other thing is, I've been mentioning the tie-breaking metrics because even though it's early, like they matter, and the record is 1-4 in the NFC, which really hurts from like a wild card standpoint.
Yep.
So you can't afford. There's no margin for error here, really, in the conference to lose these games. How do they get right?
It's funny. Like London is the least reactive person, one of the least reactive people that I've ever worked with. And on the broadcast last night, he goes like, "This is a must-win game." And so when you feel that level of urgency from him, and maybe it's taking me back to when I played, and he's the team captain. I'm like, well, we got to win this game, coach. So like, it's to me, this is a tough out. This is a very tough out. I think you can look at it and say, hey, they're traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast, blah, 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 blah. But like they, to me, are maybe the best team in football right now. Like they're close in terms of how their defense is playing, their ability to create pass rush with 4. I watched a little bit of them last week just to kind of get ready for the short week, and I couldn't believe kind of their third down packages, how they're playing coverage on the perimeter, like, and then obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba and Sam Darnold are playing out of their faces right now, and they can run the football. So I don't know, like I have some confidence that the defense will play better. I thought there were signs of that in the first half of the game, and hopefully they can carry that over to this game. But these 2 games are not easy, and they might be against 2 of the better. They are against 2 of the better teams in the NFL. And again, it's going to be a stacked deck, and hopefully you get Jane Daniels back. But they gotta get to the drawing board and get as tight and as connected as they possibly can, and find a way to win one of these things. So.
Yeah, more on that coming Thursday in our preview pod. We'll have that out for you on Thursday morning. All right, Logan, catch up on some sleep. I know it was a late night, and watch some more tape and keep chopping wood. And we'll be back with more Take Command a little bit later in the week. Thank you for checking out this podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your audio. Spread the word. If you have a buddy who's a fan of the team who's never listened, please send this to them and tell them to listen, watch on YouTube, 1067 The Fan at Team 980. For our producer, Evan and Logan, I'm Grant saying so long for Take Command.